All right. Okay. So, hello, everyone. My name is Michaela. I am the founder of GC Prep and one of its co-owners. And so, what we want to do with all of you as you apply is make sure that you have an application strategy that is really showing off all your best features, right? As a human, right? As an applicant. And one of the main ways to do that is in your personal statement or your statement of purpose or your supplemental essays, whatever that school is calling it. Okay. Um, they all want similar types of information, but the prompts are so vague. It's hard to know how to write it effectively, right? And so what we're trying to do is really break that all down for you so that it's easy to start, it's easy to know you're on the right track and you're focusing where you want to focus. Okay. So let's get into this. Um, so here are goals to talk about what are schools looking for in the essay, how to brainstorm your experiences and your analysis. We're also going to talk about picking a core idea for your paper, which is not required, but can really help you as you kind of move forward and try to figure out like what is relevant and what do I select to put in here. And then also how to pick a framework for your paper, like an overarching skeleton for it, how to describe your experiences, and then starting and ending with a bang. Okay. So that is kind of our overall goal. There's a lot. Okay. I talk fast. I apologize. There's nothing I can do about it. So I would recommend watching this again because there are too many ideas for you to absorb everything super effectively in one go. Okay. So here we are. What schools want? Your goal is to write a paper that you feel proud of and that you feel represents the true you. Okay. The issue is because the prompts are so vague, we often get papers that are very vague. Okay. And that's just how it is. That is very common when people come to us for coaching the first time that we read their papers. It often says a whole lot of not much. And it's not because they didn't put effort there. It's because people are used to writing from a scientific perspective because you guys are coming from scientific backgrounds with your undergrad or your careers. And in science, you take out any evidence of the writer, right? Because that is not important to the data. You want the data to show through. However, this is not a scientific paper. This is an essay on you and why you'd be a great genetic counselor and why you were prepared to do this and why you like that school, right? And why you and the school would be, simpatico, right? So we really want to make sure that we are not writing this like a scientific paper, and that we can really see your personality by the time we get to the end. Also, these authentic papers where we can see your growth, we can see your strengths and weaknesses, we can see your analysis of the situation. They come across as far more authentic than papers that are just fact-based. Like I did this, I did that, I did the other thing. Okay. So what we want is for a school to read your essay, and by the time they get to the end, or ideally even before that, to be like, oh my goodness, we need to meet this person. Get them in the interview spot. We want to find out more about what they have to say. Okay. That's our goal for you. And a good base essay is really the door to a lot of interviews. And the more interviews you have, the better your chances of matching. Okay. And a lot of applicants make the mistake of like, well, it's really hard to get in, so I'll apply to like 15 programs and that'll increase my odds, right? To some degree, yes, but the better way of increasing your odds is to apply to fewer schools and really nail your application essay because it's the quality of that essay that's going to get them interested in you. So if you apply to 8 or 9, but you have like 5 or 6 interviews, that's better than applying to 15 and only have 2 interviews because you spent so much time on all the busy work that's involved in applying, which there's a lot. And you had so many essays to write that any one given essay couldn't have all the oomph that you wanted to give it. Make sense? So we're going for quality here, not just straight quantity. So what do schools want to know? There's, in general, 4 main ideas. And some schools, oh my goodness, I don't know why it stopped showing. my video. I apologize, you guys. Um, so there's four main things, and some schools have supplemental essays, or they might have a little bit different, but in general, my webcam, guys, it's been struggling. It's been on the struggle bus for a couple weeks now. I apologize. You won't be able to see me. I apologize. Um, but first of all, they want to know who are you as a person? And what that means is what are your passions and your motivations? What values drive you? Okay. What is your thought process? What are your learning styles? How authentic are you? I mean, you're not getting all of that in your paper. Obviously, it's too much to cover in one paper. But these are the things that help you identify the people in your life and if they're like a good person or not. If you're on the same like thought train as them, right? If you want to be their friend and learn more about them, understanding what their values are and what makes them tick and what they're going for, like how they want to make the world a better place, like that is very important information as you assess the the quality of the people that you're inviting into your life. And these programs are inviting you into the profession, right? So we really want to make sure we're getting across who are you as a person, okay? You also want to tell them why you are ready to be a genetic counselor. So not only does that include um, why you want to be a genetic counselor in general, like specifically, but it's also what has prepared you to enter grad school at this time, right? Why now? Why not in a year? Especially if you're doing a career change or you're coming to the application process as kind of an atypical or more mature student. Awesome. That's super great. Lots of programs are really interested in that, but like, why now? And why this change? Okay. We also want to know why do you want to go to their program? Okay. And we can't use because I can afford it and because it's in a city that I like. Though they're like the most basic, though they're like bottom of the barrel reasons, we need more specifics. And it's also not because your program has a prenatal rotation. Like they all do. Okay. There's very few items that make schools unique from each other, if we're being honest. Like they want you to think something different, but realistically, these programs can be very similar, at least on face value when you're trying to do your research. So, what you're looking for and what they want to know in this part of your essay is what about our program is a good fit for you as a person and your learning style, and what can you bring to us? So, it's not just like why do you like this school, but why will you guys be successful together? Okay, and we're going to talk more about that. There we go. Okay. So, last thing here, why should you believe anything that I'm saying? Because it works. Okay, this process works that I'm going to explain to you. So last cycle, we had about 60% of applicants, this is nationwide, who got interviews, but if they had coaching on their essays by GC Prep, it was almost 86%. Okay, and this is very typical. The thing that's not typical about these numbers is that last year there were a lower number of applicants and a greater number of programs. So the percentage of people getting interviews was as high as it's ever been. Okay. But for the last like 4 years of GC prep, this 86 to 90% of people who coach with us getting interviews has stayed the same. Okay. So this thought process and this digging deeper into the insight is something that attracts school attention and is highly successful for applicants. Okay. So let's talk about brainstorming. How are you going to think about your experiences to know which ones to include in your essay because you cannot talk about everything. Okay. So what you want to do, and this is like this will be a couple sessions for you guys on your own as you sit down and think about what you've done and the things that you've experienced and where you've put your efforts. So you want to think about your experiences and what they have truly meant to you. What has really inspired you to pursue a career in genetic counseling? Okay. And these experiences that you're thinking about, they don't have to be genetics or medicine related. Okay. They can be personal. They can be experiences that you've had with your friends, with your family. They can be um, in your volunteer work that has nothing to do with genetics. But we're trying to see the times in your life when you have kind of butted up against these genetic counseling um, values or kind of pillars of the field, like leadership, like advocating for others, like um, unconditional positive regard, or providing or receiving support, or helping someone through that grief process. So the things that have really prepared you to be a genetic counselor are not just I took the right classes, but they are I understand my experiences and what they mean to me as a human. Okay, that's what we're going for. Okay, we got the camera back on. Fingers crossed that it stays working. Okay. So as you brainstorm these experiences, both successes and failures are good to think about. Okay. If you totally failed an experience and it's something that like haunts you and you like think about you like think about it a lot, because I do that sometimes when I make a mistake. That's okay, right? So as you brainstorm, write down those failures. Like, why did it fail? Was it something that you did? Should you have done more? Should you have approached something differently? All of that is really good insight that you have about yourself and about interpersonal relationships. So brainstorm everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. Okay. As you brainstorm, you want to ask yourself, what did you learn? That is like the most important thing. How are you different from before that situation started to when it was done? And you may have learned something in the moment, cool, but you also could have learned something as you have just ruminated on it for the last weeks or months or years. Okay. We want to understand what insights did you gain from it? Did your perspective change? Did you gain an understanding of how other people live in the world that is not the way that you live? Did you learn more about problems that other people are facing that you had no idea were even something that was a problem, right? How did your understanding of someone's lived experience get deeper? Oh, look at that. I did not know that you could like mark on that. That's super cool. Um, Okay, and then also we want relevance to genetic counseling. Again, this does not have to be a genetic counseling experience. Okay, it does not even have to be like a medical related experience, but we want to compare what we've done and the experience we had to these kind of concepts and values of genetic counselors. And if you don't know all of what those are, that is fine. We have a video on our website that's like the vocabulary of a genetic counselor, right? That's a great one to watch to get all those things. And I froze. Sorry, guys. Okay. The other thing we want to write down is how are you going to use this information in the future? If you messed up in the past, that's okay. What did you learn about it? And what are you going to do differently if a similar situation arises? Right? So this growth, this learning process, um, how might you apply this idea to genetic counseling? If you had a patient as a genetic counselor, how is this thing that you learned, this concept, going to benefit them? Right? So that is what we're kind of trying to brainstorm as we think about our experiences. Um, and it's just an info dump at this stage. Okay. Um, this is also a place that you really want to make sure you're writing down anything from your specifically genetic counseling related experience. If you've been a genetic counseling assistant, that is awesome. So, like, love that for you that you found that experience. You are going to be not graded, but like assessed at a higher level because you've been in close proximity with genetic counselors. So, being a GCA can be a really good thing, but you got to know what you're talking about. Okay. So we want to make sure that GCA experiences are included. If you've done your crisis counseling, whether that's text line or anything else, volunteer work, if you did research, if you did advocacy, you really want to make sure that you are thoroughly brainstorming experiences from like the prerequisites that the school has, not your classes, but like the extracurricular prerequisites. Okay, because if you did a lot of crisis work and you don't talk about it anywhere in your paper, a program might wonder, why not? Did you learn anything from that? And that's not the questions that you want them to be asking about you. Okay, here we go. There we go. So, another thing that we want to do is, as you brainstorm, is identify and define your personal strengths, your weaknesses, and your values. This is really hard to do about yourself. especially for people who want to be genetic counselors because we don't like talking about ourselves, right? And we tend to be focused on empathetically helping others and how can I serve you and how can I make this better for you, which are all good things. But this paper is about you. You're the main character here. So we need to make sure that we understand who you are as the main character. So there are a couple ways that you can do this. First, self-reflection. What are the things that you like about yourself, right? Make notes of those. What are some things that you don't like about yourself or your general performance in life? Um, be kind, right, to yourself. And it can be really hard to objectively assess yourself. And there are some of you out there who will do that activity and you will have a whole long list of things that you don't like about yourself and maybe like one thing on the things that are your strengths. Okay. You have more good things than bad things. And so one of the things that I really recommend doing is talking to people who love you, who respect you, and who know you really well and ask them, like, when you think about me, what do you think of? Or what do you think I'm best at? Or what values do you think I have? What do you appreciate about me? Right? It can be awkward to ask those questions, but you know, ask your best friend, ask your mom, ask whoever is your safe person, ask them, and they will tell you all sorts of lovely things about yourself. And then you got to believe it. Okay. So that is a really good way to drum up some themes from the people around you who are assessing you from the outside. There are also a variety of tools and assessment online to help you find your values and strengths. Like Brene Brown is a life coach. She has a list of values that you can go through and kind of pick out which ones really call you and which ones you feel really strongly about. And you can, in general, just Google like strength and weakness finder or self-assessment, things like that. Okay. So why know this about yourself? Okay, this is going to help you articulate um, who you are and what you're about and what you want through your CV, through your personal statement, and through your interviews. Okay. And it's also really important for you to believe in yourself and the skills and the things you're bringing to the table. Because if you don't believe in yourself, why would a school believe in you? Okay, they don't know you personally yet. So they don't know you well enough to believe in you when you don't. Okay, so you really need to bring this confidence to the table. And it's not arrogant. It's not like, hey, I'm going to be the best genetic counselor that ever was and ever will be. Like, that's not what we're talking about. But we're saying, I'm ready. I have the skills. I'm prepared. I humbly present myself as a good applicant, right? Um, all of you deserve to be there. All of you have value. Okay. So our goal is for you to see all of that and to get programmed to see that too. Okay. Another thing you want to think about is what are your career goals? Okay. This is not just, I want to help people. Of course you do, or you wouldn't be here. We need more specific information than that. Okay, so when you think about yourself in 5 years, in 10 years as a genetic counselor, what does that look like? It could be a specific specialty. Some people are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for a like very specific specialty. I had someone who really loved prenatal. She was like, I've been going to the Natural History Museum and spending time in the pregnancy exhibit since I was a kid. It's weird, but I love it. Okay. Other people are like, I just really love cancer. I didn't want to, but I do. That's where I want to be, and that's fine. If you don't have a specific specialty, that is also okay, right? Think about different aspects of a genetic counselor's role that you feel strongly about, right? Like, I really love research, right? Or I really love teaching, which is my thing, right? I really love the teaching part of it and the explaining. Or let's say you are super interested in advocacy, and so being part of the National Society for Genetic Counselors and being involved in policy making is your jam, right? Or you want to raise certain voices. So there's a lot that you can think about and kind of aim for in your paper, and they're not going to hold you to that. It's not like whatever you say in here is going to be the end all be all of your career, but they like to see that you're pointing towards something, right? That your goal isn't, I just want to get into grad school. It is, no, my goal is a career in genetic counseling that is having this impact. Okay. So it's bigger than just, I want to see in a program. And then we also want to make sure that We have a little bit about your genetic counseling journey as we're brainstorming and doing data collection for yourself. Like, how'd you find out about it? What are your passions and how they relate to genetic counseling? What do you find most appealing? What qualities of genetic counselors do you embody? Things like that. Okay. So all of this is brainstorming as you just prepare to write your paper and as you're finding out about yourself and what all of these experiences have meant for you. So you do not have to pick a core idea. I recommend it. It can be a really helpful anchor to your paper, and help you kind of pull in your conclusions for each experience that you've had towards the end of your paper. Okay. So the goal here with this core idea is that a program is going to read your paper, and then when they set it down, they think, oh, applicant Bob is blah, and fill in the blank. Okay. And you are filling in the blank. You are providing them the idea that you want them to know about yourself, but it has to be simple. Okay. It has to be like really um, easy to understand. It has to be supported by your um, experiences that you're choosing to share in your paper, but it makes for a cohesive theme from start to finish. So as you learn more about yourself in the data collection and finding your strengths and weaknesses and values, it is easier to look at then your experience and like all of the experiences you've brainstormed and figure out what's the theme of why this was all important to me. The ones that I remember the most, the ones that stick with me the most, like what is the theme? What value is that hitting up against? Okay. And that's one of the ways that you can find that core idea. Okay. Um, it can be hard to pick that on your own. So we can help you. That is a common thing that we do in coaching is we help people talk through their experiences. And then usually the way it looks for me is I feel like this is what I'm hearing. Like all these experiences kind of have this common theme. Is that what you're after? And usually people are like, oh my gosh, yes, I couldn't put that into words, but that's it. Like, cool. Let's write about that. Let's make that our tie-in point and make everything super coherent and like narrative like from the start of your paper to the end. Okay. Here's what not to do. I want to help people. Of course you do. Or you wouldn't be here. And you can help people by working at a food bank, or you can help people by being a social worker, or you can help people by being, whatever. So I want to help people is not a good enough core idea. It needs to be more specific on why or how. Also, I love genetics. Not a good enough idea. You could be a genetic researcher, you could be a geneticist, you could do all sorts of things with I love genetics. But we want something specific to genetic counseling. Okay. And then this last one, I'm ready to be a genetic counselor because I have this, that, and the other thing, and I saw a million cases, and I'm passionate about all these things, and blah, blah, blah. It's too long. They're not going to get that. It's not simple enough of an idea to really have coherently through your entire paper without being very clunky. So we want short ideas, but ones that are easy to understand. So these are some real examples from the last couple of years, and all these people matched. Okay. I can do hard things. I know how to have hard conversations. I'm passionate about medical justice. I'm a grower, right? I want to facilitate other people's choices. Okay. So all these people had multiple interviews. And this core idea was a way that they didn't get lost in their paper and they could keep coming back to this theme. Okay. So if yours is similar to one of these, that's fine, but we don't want you to just like pick a rando and copy it, right? Because this is needs to be about you, not about these other people. Choosing a framework. This is kind of like the skeleton um, of your paper. Again, you don't have to have one of these, but if you're really floundering on like, I don't know where to start. Like, how do I even structure this? I have no idea. Here's a couple ways. Okay. You could have it be strength focused. So as you look at your experiences and understand the things that you're good at, you're kind of writing to how the strengths that you have make you fit to be a genetic counselor and make you ready to go to grad school. So what are your strengths? You're sharing experiences that highlight those strengths and how you've used them or how you've developed them, and then how you intend on applying them as a genetic counselor. Okay. For other people, perhaps who feel less confident, weaknesses, like a weakness focused paper can also be really good. And this is not just like, oh, I'm bad at all these things, but these are my weaknesses and this is how I've overcome them and learned to grow. So it's actually like it's kind of like a strength focus paper in hiding because your strength is I've learned to overcome, right? So, if there are things that you've like challenges that you've had in whatever sphere of your life, we're focusing on learning the lessons. We're focusing on how it has changed your perspective. We're focusing on how you did it differently the next time, and now it is something that you recognize that you have a lot of skill in. Okay, totally fine. Um, some people go with like their crisis or shadowing experience focus. So this is a really introspective narrative. Like these are things that happened in my shadowing or crisis work. This is what I learned from them. This is the insight that I gained. This is how I'll apply it as a genetic counselor. Um, and then some people have like a personal journey to genetic counseling that could be sparked by a life event. So um, we've had applicants who have a genetic disorder themselves, or their family members have a genetic or a medical diagnosis, right? That kind of sparked their interest. Um, like that pivotal moment of a diagnosis or something that happened to someone that they love, right? Um, or it could be, you know, a good or bad thing that happened to you that's not related to genetic counseling, but it highlighted the need for genetic counseling skills, right? And kind of pointed you in the right direction. Um, and then we're going to talk about how your experiences since that pivotal moment have led you to this point and made you ready. Okay. So there are four different frameworks. You can do it however you want. This is just four options. But if you're really struggling to get started and like, how do I even frame this? Here are some options. Okay. Okay. Describing your experiences in a paper. And I know we're moving fast, so I apologize, but that's why I said watch it again. Um, the major pitfall that we see for applicants is people regurgitate their CV in prose. That is not what we want. Okay. Your CV has everything that you did. Your essay is why it was important. Okay. So these are different things. I don't need to know chronologically every step that led you to the point of applying. That is not necessarily relevant. I want to know the most important parts. I want discussion about why it meant so much to you. So don't get hung up on describing facts. All of you have different experiences. All of you have different amounts of shadowing and different backgrounds that you're coming from. So what you did is far, far less important than what you learned from it and how you understand why it's important. So that's what you want to spend your word count on. And that is where a school is really going to see if you are ready or not. It's not understanding that you shadowed like 10 different cases with all these different indications and it was very interesting. We don't, that's not enough. Okay. Pick one, describe it. Okay. Um, so how do we do this right? Again, you're the main character in your paper. Even if you were just observing the interaction, like if you were shadowing, we only want enough factual details for context, and we want the majority of your writing to be your analysis. And I want to I want to feel what you feel. I want to see what you see, you know. I want to be like behind your eyes, seeing the experience play out is kind of how I like to read these, then I find them most engaging. So we want to understand what you felt, what you saw, what you were thinking, what you were seeing the other people involved in the situation thinking and feeling. What was their face saying to you, their body language, that kind of assessing the interaction beyond just what words were said is very important because genetic counselors do it all the time. Okay. So can you read those nonverbal cues? And even if that is, again, successes and failures, yours or others, like if you were in a genetic counseling session that kind of bombed and the counselor didn't do a good job, you could include that. Just like why? Why did it bomb? Why did it not go right? And it's not like you're throwing anyone under the bus. We're not naming names, but you can say something like, this is what I was concerned about. The patient needed an interpreter, and the interpreter wasn't doing a great job, and the genetic counselor didn't seem to be like slowing down to take care of that, right? And the patient looked really confused and was not engaged. And I felt anxious about that. I was worried about her medical care. I hope that I can see those situations in the future as a genetic counselor and understand that I need to stop and slow down and find other ways of assessing comprehension, right? Fine assessment. If you've picked a core idea, then we want to tie in your discussion of the experience that you're sharing with that core idea, right? Um, and if you do this the right way, it means you don't have to waste word count on, in this way, I have showed my dedication to patient advocacy by blah, 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 because you've already proven that in the reflection, right? In the insight that you've written about. So we don't have to have these statements saying something that you've already proved. Okay. And in general, when we think about insight, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to think about the what, whys, and hows of a situation. Okay. So, what is like the facts of what happened? The how is how something got resolved, right? But the why is the most important part. Like, why did that method of resolution work? Or why didn't it work? What were the outcomes, right? So most people get really bogged down in their paper describing the what happened. Okay. But that is like the most surface level, least effective way to describe yourself to a program. We want you to move beyond what happened to how it happened, like how a genetic counselor was able to take a patient from panic mode into, I feel like I have more control and understanding of the situation. I feel more calm, right? How did they get them there? But then why? Why did it work? Right? What, how did the tool that they used to do that, why was that effective? If they were really empathetic and if they were like using active listening and reflecting back the patient's ideas to them, did you see that reflecting back make the patient feel more validated? And because they felt more validated, they felt like someone was actually hearing them and they were willing to listen and engage and they felt like a provider heard them and their needs and they felt more calm. Okay? That is much more interesting, much more insightful than just the patient was seen by a genetic counselor and it was an interesting interaction. Okay. All right. Starting and ending with a bang. I feel especially like interested in this. Like I want to see everybody's paper with a hook. Um, the people who are reading your papers, guys, they're human. Okay, they really want to be interested in your paper, but it's the end of a long day for them, and they're bored and they're tired. Okay, so what we need is your paper to start with something memorable, something interesting, something that's immediately going to hook their attention in. And it's a little bit of drama, a little bit of storytelling. Okay. Um, but what we want is what I like to see is usually an experience that is especially poignant or dramatic, or that pivotal moment, if you're going with that kind of structure for your paper. Um, I like to see those described as like this moment in time was a really key moment for me, right? For whatever reason. And describing that event and what was going on with it and what you learned from it and how it's kind of like started your trajectory is a really interesting way to get people interested in reading your paper. Okay. Um, it's a good time to bring up that core idea that you want them to know. And it kind of just sets the tone for the rest of your paper. So these hooks, they don't have to be anything crazy dramatic. Like a patient was dying and then blah blah blah. It doesn't have to be like a life and death situation, but it needs to be a moment that felt very pivotal to you, that felt really significant for you, even though to someone else who's not interested to being a genetic counselor, it may not seem like a lot. Okay? It's totally fine. And we can help you figure out what that is if you're not sure where to start. But most of you probably just had an idea fly by in your head of that really pivotal experience. And so if you had a thought fly by of what experience meant a lot to you, that could be your hook. Write that down. Okay? So that's starting. Then your final paragraph is usually why this school. It's not just location and cost, though those are totally valid reasons, but not for this paragraph. Okay. And we're not going to go location and cost because it's too basic. Um, what we do want is what works well for you. And why are you in this program going to be like, yes, we will make something beautiful together out of our career, right? So, as you search the school's website or go to informational open houses or talk to students or whatever, I need you to pick at least two things that are valuable to you. So offerings from that school. Oops. Oh my goodness. Balloons. I didn't know that would happen. Um, so offerings that meet your needs, or your passions or your learning style or interests. So some people know that they do their best work if they have like a mentor, like a dedicated person where they can go if they have a question and like have regular check-ins. So programs that have mentorship kind of built in would be a great fit for that person. And that tells the school a lot, right? I'm very interested in your school having a mentorship program because that is how I do my best learning. And I really integrate knowledge the best when I can talk about it with my mentor and I grow the most. Super valuable for them to know about your learning style. Okay. Um, Other people, again, let's say they're like super interested in prenatal. If that program has a specific prenatal offering or like community outreach thing about prenatal or something that is specific to your specialty interest, cool, right? Let's talk about that. Um, if you're interested in certain rotation sites, or if you plan to live in that city after you're done with your program, and so you want to go there because you want to establish work connections and take care of that particular patient population that you want to work in, yay. Okay. Those are far more specific um, reasons to be interested in program rather than I just really love to live in New York City. Okay. Other things we want to think about is what are you bringing to the table for that program? Okay. Like if you really love teaching and you have like TA experience or something, we can mention that because you'll be able to help the other students learn as you learn yourself. If you have a strong background in some type of research, which is also something that the program does, then you want to like get involved and assist with that research that they're working on. Okay. So this is not just like what they can do for you, but also what you can do for them. Yep. Um, there's a whole video on how to pick schools that we have, and our program map. If you guys haven't seen that on our website, I just updated it last night. Let me show you guys. GC prep. There we go. So check this out. Here's our program map. Not last night, I did it today. But this is a great resource where you can set your filters. So let's say that you want to be on a coast. Let's see, northeast, southeast, right? You know where you want to be on a coast, and let's say you have a budget where your max, let's say it's $80,000, okay? And then let's say that you also want fewer than 10 people in your class. Cool. There are your choices. Okay. So this is a really great map. Oh, and when you click on it, let's click on this. So Keen. And you can pick on it. It's going to have some data. So how long the program is, class size, application deadline, GPA requirements, the approximate cost, um, information from the website, and then you can click there to actually like go to the website. Okay. This Please use this map because it is a massive pain in the butt for us to update every year, but it's so important. Okay. We made this so that your first criteria when picking schools didn't have to be location. Okay. And the video of how to pick schools will help you assess what about that school fits your needs. And every applicant is going to have a different profile of what you need. Okay. So it's a great way to help you think about what is going to be best for you and find the schools that you maybe wouldn't necessarily have investigated if you had just gone off of the first criteria of location, which, as far as I'm aware, there's no other map like this that helps you filter other than location first. Okay. Um, and then we do want to end by bringing up that core idea again, if you used it. Okay. So that last sentence looks something like, um, I look forward to um, applying my core idea in the setting of this program or similar. Okay. Okay. So your general outline, you have your hook, your story, and introduce your core idea. Then you've got your experiences, right? One, two, and three, relate it to your core idea, relate it to genetic counseling. Okay. You have your why this school is right for me, two personalized reasons, and then your like conclusion or summary. Okay. Sometimes numbers 5 and 6 there, those are usually the same paragraph. Okay. Um, Again, you want to make sure that you are the main character throughout. Okay. That this paper is about you and not about the people you were talking to or interacting with. Okay. Because you are the one that they are trying to assess. Okay. So this is going to be applicable to most application essays. And if you write like the long version of your paper that is answering like those four general questions, who are you? Why genetic counseling? Why are you ready to be a genetic counselor? And why this school? That content is going to get you the majority of application essay prompts covered. Okay, there might be a couple that are outside the box and you might have to write a little bit more. But if you can get the long version of your paper answering those four questions, it becomes much easier to cut that long version down to then 750 words or 500 words or break it into smaller segments because some places have like three prompts that are asking those questions instead of just one paper. So if you get the long version the way you want it, adjusting it for the needs of particular schools becomes much easier. Okay. Okay. Do's and don'ts in general. Don't ramble, right? That'll happen at first drafts. That's totally fine. But most people end up writing the way that they would speak. And the way that we speak has a lot of extra words, as I'm sure you have noticed tonight, right? So when we are writing, we want to be kind of like ruthless with our word count. Even if it's not the way we would say it in person, if there is a way to say it with fewer words, super, let's do that. Okay. Um, However, we don't want to add too much fluff or pomp and circumstance to what we're saying. Okay. It is appropriate to include a couple of GC terms in there, like informed consent or advocacy or positive regard or whatever. And again, there's that vocabulary of genetic counselors video that can help point out what some of those words are and teach you how to use them. Okay. But we don't want so much of that or such flowery um, analogies that it doesn't seem genuine. Okay. So we need a right balance there. And then we don't want too many details about like the facts of what happened. Because again, what you learned is far more important. We're not going to regurgitate our CV. Um, and we're not going to get too detailed into like deeply traumatic experiences. Okay. It Vulnerability is appreciated in these papers by schools. They do like to see you kind of like offer something sensitive, but we're not gonna like super dwell on it, right? So I've had an applicant who matched, but part of her paper kind of talked about this time in her life when she felt like very alone because of thing XYZ. And it wasn't, she was mentioning that not to like dwell on that bad space in her life, but she told that story so that she could talk about this is how I got out of it. This is how another person's support and help really changed my life. And that support and help is what I want to provide when other people are in their really dark moments. Because if someone's meeting with you as a genetic counselor, they're probably having one of the shittiest times of their life. Okay. So it's okay to bring up times that are hard or things that were very difficult for you. Um, we're not bringing it up as a woe is me situation, but as a let's reflect on that moment and the how that felt and how I can relate that to what my patients might be feeling. Okay. Um, oh, another example of this is I had a client once who was discussing, she brought up the death of a family member who she had a very close and loving relationship with, but her parent did not. And so she was grieving with the sudden loss, but her parent was having a very different reaction to that news, but she was also very close to her parent. And so it felt very confusing to have um, an emotional response that was so different from this person who had been her support system and who she would normally rely on to get through her hard times. So it felt really disorienting for her. And she compared that to how patients are likely to feel or maybe feeling if they don't feel the same way as their partner through a difficult diagnosis, or they understand how people might use their support system differently. Okay. So these are ways to take the things that have happened in your life and turn them into relevant, outward facing, this is how I understand human relationships and how complicated they are. Okay. So what do you do? Make sure you look at the prompts, obviously. Okay. Um, when you've kind of outlined your paper, look at the prompt, right? It's good to make yourself kind of a list of all the schools you're interested in, all their prompts. You want to be mindful of the word limit, but your first multiple drafts of your paper will not stick to the word limit, and that's fine. We want to get to the place where you feel like you're really vibing with with your paper. You feel it really represents you, and then we'll start being ruthless on words. Okay. Um, you want to look through the lens of a genetic counselor. Um, when you're writing this. Okay. Everything that we're trying to do as coaches is to teach people to think like a genetic counselor, to dig for that insight. And the more practice you get with thinking like a genetic counselor, the better it goes for these essays and the better it goes for interviews, because that's what they're trying to assess. Okay. Do you understand the things that are important to this profession? Do you have the interpersonal skills to understand why your communication style is relevant and what to do when you don't know what to do? Okay. Um, you do want to find ways to make connections with the schools that you're applying to. So if they do have live dates, like informational sessions, you want to attend those. If you have questions, feel free to contact them. I want you to do your like brainstorm and data collection on your experiences before you start. We want to be vulnerable and share your story and your lived experiences. And then get help, even if it's not with us. Okay. My desire for you, me as a human, for you as a human, is don't try to do this alone because it's super confusing. It takes a lot of time. It's like a part-time job trying to apply to all these schools. And doing it alone is very confusing to know, like, am I doing it right? Or am I wasting my time and my money? Okay. I don't want that for you. So if you need help, you can get it from us. If you have a genetic counselor in your life who can guide you and read over your stuff, great. If you have a guidance counselor, like at your college, that is willing to help you, yes. If you've got other people that can kind of participate in this and help you reflect, do it. Okay. Just don't try to do this alone because it's lonely and hard to do it that way, and it doesn't have to be that hard. Okay. Okay. We are towards the end here. So coaching, why do it? Like, obviously, I'm biased because I started a company that does coaching, right? So take this with a grain of salt if you want. But the reason I started this company is because I, it like really annoys me when I have a goal and I can't find clear instructions of how to achieve that goal. Like, that's that really irritates me. And For applicants, just seemed to be a theme, right? I have a goal of becoming a genetic counselor. I think I'd be good at it, but I don't understand how to be successful because these prompts are so vague, right? I've tried like 3 times to get into grad school and it hasn't worked. So what do we do here? Um, that's why I started this. Everyone needs a clear path, right? That's better for the field because they get great applicants who are prepared and ready that know how to present themselves and move forward. It's better for you guys because you are getting the most out of your time and money and effort as you go to apply. So the goal of GC Prep is really to provide resources and a benchmark and kind of a pathway forward on how to be successful here. Okay. Um, so coaching can really help you with those nuances. We can help you pick a core idea, help you pick a framework. We can help you think more deeply about your experiences and how they relate to the values that genetic counselors have. Um, we can help you navigate the wildly different word count requirements that schools have, and we can give you unbiased feedback that maybe your mom's not unbiased enough to give, and that's okay. We can also provide emotional support for this whole journey, right? Because if you show up to a session and you're like, and just like not feeling very enthusiastic about it, let's talk about it, right? Let's get back to the core of like, why are you doing this? What are you excited about? Let's find that again. Let's rekindle this desire. Let's talk about what's best for you. Okay. Um, but again, even if it's not coaching with us, there are other people who do that out there, and there are people that you don't have to pay. If you can find it, just do it, right? Get help. So how do we do coaching? Document reviews, like we meet. You guys send us your documents, your CV, and your essay draft. We spend about half an hour going over it and generating feedback on our end, and then we meet for 45 minutes and talk about it. And there are packages of those that are discounted. Um, if we look at the data of who interviewed and who matched, the average is 3 to 4 sessions, okay, statistically, of what made that effective. We have long-term mentorship. Like some people are like, I want to meet with a coach every 2 weeks until I'm done with my interviews, just so I have like a regular person to cheerlead and kind of keep me on track and help me with this progress. And um, our mentors who do that long-term mentorship are also um, like certified life coaches, so they have extra tools and skills. So it's more holistic coaching to elevate you as a person through this whole journey. And there's more options. Okay. So if you need help deciding what that looks like or what's best for you, we have free orientation sessions. You would go to our website and then oops, not that, coaching orientation. And and then, okay, so coaching and mentorship, book coaching services, and then we're down. Okay, load, please. There we go. Here we are. Okay, and so you can read a little bit more about it, what's involved when it decides to load, and pick a time. Okay, so if you decide this is something that you want to do, you click schedule, and then all these days that are in red and the dots will show the availability. So if you know you want to meet on the 22nd, cool, here's all the available time slots. Okay. For some of this is the same way you book other services like document reviews. If there's more than one coach that offers that, then there's going to be a filter right here that allows you to pick your coach. And there are coach bios and stuff here on the website as well that you can kind of click through and see who you're interested in. Um, Notice Janelle and also Janice are former program directors. Okay, so Janice just retired as the program director of Bay Path University, and Janelle was the assistant program director over admissions at Sarah Lawrence for a long time. So if you want them to coach you, that's a premium service. They cost more because I pay them more because they're experts at this and they've seen hundreds and hundreds of application essays. Um, but you can get coached on all of this by people with program directing experience. Okay. So there's lots of options for you guys. If you have any questions, you can do that coaching orientation. It's free, or email me at support@gcprepllc.com. That comes right to me. Okay. And that's the end of what I have. So do you guys have any questions? Gonna stop sharing now. Okay, there we go. It was like a lot. I talked fast. I apologize.
You said the vocab of GC's video is on your website as well, or was
Hmm.
that a YouTube thing?
Nope, that's on our website. Oh, let me share again. Sorry. Share this one. Okay. So on our website, you can go to like it's under educational videos, and there are there's over 24 hours of videos actually. So these are all the different videos involved, and you can purchase them one by one if you want to. The Draw Your Family History one is free if you want a little taster. You guys get to see my wackadoodle family history. Um, I have uh, three half brothers, and the four of us have three different moms. So that's an interesting family history there if you want to draw out. Um, and then there's, specialty information like on the different specialties. Okay. Um, Module two, oops. Oh, and like this video overview of genetic counseling, how to become one, what we get paid, right? Where we work, stuff like that. Module two is all about your application information. So things to consider when applying, how to select schools, how the match algorithm actually works. There is an excerpt from that on YouTube, how to do your CV, writing a compelling statement of purpose, which is like this, but webinar, but even more detailed. Making the most of your interviews, international student affairs, and then how to get the most out of your crisis and shadowing experience. Okay. And then the third module is all, and so that vocab of a GC is probably in the first module. Sorry, I got distracted. And then this last module is all different interviews with genetic counselors that are all different stages. Like this is Bob Resta. He's like an OG in the field of genetic counseling, won a Lifetime Achievement Award in the field. Like everybody knows Bob. Okay. Um, Lots of different specialties in research and lab management, in being a program director, in being an entrepreneur, in um, being someone in the field who is BIPOC, when we definitely have a diversity problem in genetic counseling, someone who is a GC manager and kind of in the business administration side, pediatrics, all sorts of things. Me and my BFF Nathan talk about doing genetic counseling with ADHD and how that affects us. So all types of things. And if you watch these, then you can add them to your CV as observed interviews. Okay, so they can actually grow your CV if you're really kind of light on informational interviews or shadowing. Um, if you are someone who's in an underrepresented group, so either LGBTQIA plus or an ethnic minority or someone in a very low socioeconomic status, you can get all the videos for free. And you can do that by going to the financial aid tab and then this take the demographic survey. Okay. And that comes to me, and usually within 24 hours, you get video access. Okay. If you're not in any of those groups, then there are access plans. There's a monthly option here. I should reorder these. There's a monthly option here for the videos, or like a one and done fee there for those videos. So it just kind of depends what you're interested in and how much you want. But those videos are really designed to get you like 60 to 70% of the information that you need to know so that when you meet with a coach live, if you choose to do that, whether it's us or someone else, that time is very high yield because you understand all the basics and most of the intermediate stuff, and you can really get down into the, okay, but how do I make that specific to me? Or I had this idea when I was watching this video, how do I apply it correctly, right? Um, so that is really meant to get you a lot of the kind of stuff that you can do remotely on your own before getting assistance. Okay. Other
Thank you.
questions? Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for this presentation. So when you were describing sort of the four main parts of the essay, I think you mentioned like answering the questions, who you are, why you're ready for genetic counseling,
Hmm.
why the school, and was the third one what you have done?
Let me grab it again. Here we go. Here's in general. So we kind of got three here, but yes, it's mostly four. So we're answering questions like who are you? Like what makes you tick, your values, like the things that are important to you, okay, how you think. We're trying to answer the question like why specifically genetic counseling, right? Like why are we picking this instead of something else in a related field or somewhere else where you can help people? Um, why is it this profession? We're talking about why now is the time, why you are ready for this, what has prepared you for it. And then finally, why you and this program will be a good fit. Okay. So those questions, aside from the last one where you're going to have a very specific paragraph probably on why you and that program are a good fit, these other questions you may or may not address outright, right? It's not like you're going to be writing, I am prepared for this program because like that is not what we're putting in our paper. We are proving that with all the evidence and analysis that we have given. We're showing it by how we describe our growth with these experiences. We do want to make sure that we have a little bit more um, obvious discussion of why specifically genetic counseling appeals to us. But again, we're not writing a sentence of, I want to be a genetic counselor because, right? Um, we we want it more rich than that. Okay. But those four ideas are what most programs are looking for. And so if you structure your paper to, in general, answer them, provide evidence for those questions, then you're going to be providing them the information that they want about you. Okay.
Got it, thanks.
Other questions? Nope. Okay. So again, you guys can always email me. I am available, support@gcprepllc.com. Even if you don't do any coaching with us, that's fine. If you just have questions, let me know. If you want one of those free orientation sessions to kind of talk about where you're at and where you're getting stuck and where you need to go, let's chat. They're no obligation. So if you decide not to do coaching with us after that, cool. Have a great life, right? We want to make sure that you have the things that you need to feel comfortable moving forward and that you feel like you have a community and someone on your side, whether or not that's us or someone else. It's okay. All right. So let us know if there's anything that we can do for you, anything else that you're interested in. But thank you guys so much for your time. And we'll get this webinar posted on the website in a couple days so it can be rewatched. But keep in touch because we send out emails when we have events coming up, and then we usually do another webinar in probably going to be in January about preparing for your interviews and how to prep for those and other services that we have available. Okay? Okay. Take care, you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.